The Sims 4 is boring. Allow me to explain. But before I do, I just want to point out that everything that is said in this video is 100% solely my own opinion. If you feel differently, good for you. I hope you have fun with this game. So, I'm a pretty big fan of the Sims series, enough at least to be a bit excited when a new game is announced. So when I heard back in 2014 that we're getting a sequel to The Sims 3, my favorite Sims game, I decided to hedge my bets and I bought the deluxe edition on day one for £45. And I was disappointed by the game after only playing for a few hours. Now, the game does take steps forward, but I also felt like it took too many steps back for me to consider it a better game than The Sims 3. The game itself represents a scummy corporate practice that I will dive into later. But for now, let's take a closer look at the game. I think a good place to start is the art style. I quite like the shift in design here. It's more stylized to suit the wackier nature of The Sims and works better than The Sims 3 more realistic style. Not to say The Sims 3 looked bad, far from it. It can actually be pretty fun to see some of the stupid stuff mixed in with the realistic art style of The Sims 3. But the art style here in The Sims 4 definitely suits the nature of The Sims more. Regardless of the art style though, the graphical fidelity of the game was a bit off. The anti-aliasing sucks and the draw distance was poor. I thought all this was happening because my game automatically set my graphics settings down a bit, but when I checked, my settings were set to ultra, so yeah, that's something I noticed. So I load in and start a new game. I'm booted into the creative sim and I make it my goal to create the most beautiful sim ever. The sim that everyone will know. The sim that everyone will want in their lives. Perfect. Now to give him his traits, yep, those work well. And to name him, beautiful. That is the new face of beauty right there. Now, compared to The Sims 3, there are better features when it comes to body modification. You can zoom in on specific body parts and edit them manually by dragging, whereas in The Sims 3 you would have to use sliders. So there's a bit more control here. There's also a pretty decent selection of clothing, hair and accessory options, but it's here where I came across my first big problem with the game. Now, in The Sims 3, there was a similar amount of starting clothing and customization options, maybe a bit less, I don't know exactly. But it had one of my favorite features, which was the ability to edit the colors of pretty much anything. Look here, even when editing the hair, I could have several different colors mixed in together to create unique color options. And that extended to the clothing as well. In fact, with the clothing, I couldn't just change the color, but the material as well to create truly unique pieces of clothing, even with the limited options. It allowed me to make more out of less. But what about The Sims 4? Well, this feature is completely removed. You can't edit the colors or the materials. Each item is given preset colors and designs to choose from, and if they don't have the color or design you want, then tough shit, go find something else. I was surprised at how much the removal of this feature affected the customizability of The Sims. Other than that, the creator sim is, pretty good. So after making this extraterrestrial creature, I was taken to the world select menu. Now, in the original base game in 2014, you only got two worlds, Willow Creek and Oasis Springs. In a later update, they added a third world called New Crest, and don't worry about that fourth world. We'll come back to that. So I decided to set up residency in New Crest, in the far corner away from civilization where this thing belongs. This world was very small, but I'm sure it will seem a lot bigger when I can freely roam about the world, right? Right? But in seeing this map screen, I came across my second issue with the game. The inability to fully edit the worlds. One of my favorite things to do in Sims 3 was create brand new lots in strange areas across the map. For example, if I didn't feel like buying a pre-made house or an already existing lot, I could just enter the world edit menu and add a lot to any open area that had the space to house it. I could add a lot on the beach and own a beach house, or maybe in an open field far away from the main city and any other human interaction, because let's face it, this thing deserves to be far away from civilization. But because of the structure of these worlds, you can't do that in The Sims 4. You are always relegated to these pre-made lots, with these pre-made sizes. I know this issue may seem minor to some, but I really like this feature in The Sims 3 and I wanted it to return in The Sims 4 and be more fleshed out. But there's a reason it isn't in this game, and we'll come to that reason soon enough. So after loading into the world, I messed around with the build mode. The build mode here is actually pretty fun. There are minor improvements and additions all over the place, making it easier to use, such as the ability to move whole rooms at once, and a search function, making it easier to find items. You can sort items via the packs they come in, or even by custom content for items added via modding. There's even IKEA-style pre-built rooms for those who really don't care too much about building in this game and just want to play with The Sims. So you could essentially build a house out of these pre-made IKEA rooms. I also quite enjoyed the fact that they added the ability to scale up and scale down items with the square brackets. It allows you to create some truly unique things. So there are many of these small additions and changes that improve the build mode, but like I said earlier, for every step forward this game takes, it's taking a step backwards as well. Remember the color editing tool I talked about earlier? Well, in The Sims 3 you could also edit the colors and materials of objects in the game, including the walls and the floor. So, say for example you found a carpet that you liked, but it wasn't the color you were looking for. But there's another carpet with the correct color, but not the right pattern. Well, you could just edit the color of the carpet you liked and get what you wanted. Again, you're getting more out of less. The Sims 4, however, ditches this feature. So if you find a wall with a good pattern, but it doesn't have the right color, then too bad. That's your problem. But what interested me was why the developers removed this color editing feature. And according to the developers, it was apparently removed because they were worried about it affecting the performance of the game. Really? You managed to have that function in The Sims 3? And when did that game come out? Oh yeah, 2009. And when did this game come out? 2014. You're telling me that you could have a feature in a game that came out 5 years prior, but not in this one? Give me a break. I know the real reason why this feature wasn't in the game, but like before, I'm saving all that for later. I'll also point out that in this game there are a bunch of items that are locked until you meet certain prerequisites, which can be very annoying. There were some items that looked really cool, but I couldn't use them because you need to be a certain level in a career path or something like that. So I gave Abomination the living essentials and decided to mess around with the live mode. As you can see, my new best friend just spawned out of nowhere, so I rudely introduced myself to him. Abomination tried to slap him, but this old man clearly took notes from Bruce Lee and caught him before he landed. I then insulted him, and in retaliation the stranger decided to be very forward with me. Abomination then ranted about how Bleach is worse than Naruto, followed by insulting this old man's face for thinking otherwise. He then tried to flirt with the old guy, but like every other person, he just walked away. Abomination was angry, he was pissed, he complained and shouted into his mirror while sitting on his bed. But he wasn't gonna take this lying down. So he decided to make himself feel better by harassing an old lady. What a role model. After insulting her, inviting her to his luxurious home, and ignoring her in order to play Raid Shadow Legends on his phone, he decided to do the right thing and throw a cup of blood in the old bat's eyes and proceed to kick her out. This is one of the best features of The Sims 3, and that's the social aspect of the game has been far improved compared to the previous games. First thing is that there's a whole new mood system. You see, depending on your Sim's needs, or if they've done anything specific, their mood will be affected. Your Sim can be happy, angry, sad, embarrassed, inspired, focused, and I'm sure I'm missing a number of more emotions that your Sim can feel. In fact, with the most recent patch, they added the ability for your Sim to feel scared. This makes it a lot easier to tell how your Sim is doing, and the moodlets underneath them are colored so you can see exactly what's causing this shift in emotion. Depending on your Sim's mood, they'll also be able to have special interactions with people and objects, denoted by the color. Along with this, they added one of my favorite features to ever grace a Sims game. You see how the taskbar has this small extension of opaque white before disappearing where the actions are usually stored? Well, that's because you can now multitask, and this is such a good feature. For example, if my Sim was washing the dishes, they can now do that whilst talking to other Sims. Or if your Sim is running on the treadmill but doesn't like going to the gym, you can have them watch TV whilst running so that their fun will still increase even though they're exercising. This feature is so useful, so much so that whenever I revisit the older Sims games, I miss it a hell of a lot. That's how good this feature is. On top of that, you can now have group conversations. That's right, now when you have two Sims and one of them is talking to a neighbor or something, the other one can join in instead of awkwardly standing on the side. So it's safe to say that the social aspect of this game was greatly improved, and definitely the focus of this game, which is good. I will say I also like the HUD and menus in this game. It looks a lot cleaner than The Sims 3, everything is tucked away neatly in these menus. At Sims 3, the menus could sometimes feel cluttered, and for some people it can be difficult to navigate them or you forget where certain things are. I got used to it after a while, so it didn't affect me too much, but I like it here. It's pretty nice. You know what? Let me go visit my neighbor's empty lot and mark my territory before anyone moves in. What's this? A loading screen? Surely not. Let me try again. Still a loading screen. Oh, come the fuck on. And it's here where I have my biggest issue with the game. It's not open world. Easily one of my favorite, if not my favorite feature of The Sims 3, and the thing that makes it stand above the rest of the Sims games in my eyes, is its open world. The open world was such a good feature. It made the world you play in feel more connected. It gave the world life and charm. There wasn't invisible walls blocking me in a shitty skybox around the area. When was the last time you had to go to a friend's house and had to sit through a loading screen to get there? Yeah, I know the open world thing was in the first two Sims games, but there they were technologically hindered. What's this game's excuse? There is none. You're telling me that in 5 years of development, they managed to improve all the social aspects, but got rid of the world building aspect? No, that's not how it works. The worlds in The Sims 4 are so small. The 3 starting worlds you get don't even add up to the size of a single starting world you got in the base game of The Sims 3. On top of that, the worlds here are just plain boring. You have a bunch of residential areas, which is fine, but the only real community lots and shops that you can visit are gyms, parks, bars, libraries, and I think there's a museum in the first world, but don't quote me on that. That's it. It's like a hipster's dream. Compare that to the Sims 3 map that comes with the base game. You get a theater, bookstore, supermarket, restaurants, police department, library, park, city hall, gym, school, hospital, spa, 2 swimming pools, crime division building, graveyard, stadium, art gallery, multiple relaxation spots, a beach, a laboratory, a military base. And on top of that, there are still a good number of residential lots. And like I said before, you can edit the world to add more lots if you're running out of space. Did I miss anything? Sims 3's world being open also made the game a better experience for those who enjoy role-playing in The Sim and want to feel like an actual part of the world. For example, if you wanted to make some sort of food, you could just make it with magically appearing ingredients and watch the money be removed from your household funds. Or you could actually go to the supermarket and buy ingredients to then make that food. It's more effort, I know, but for those people who do enjoy role-playing in The Sims, it makes a hell of a difference. You could attend classes at certain lots to boost your skill. You even see the building that your Sims work at, and you can travel to them, either by carpool or with their own cars. And that's another thing, there's no cars in The Sims 4 because it isn't open world. You want to go to a new area? Just load into it. Sims 3 also just had more things to do. There was loads of optional side stuff and flavored things that you could do, such as entering food contests and, like I mentioned before, taking classes. There was just more charm to the world. The Sims 4 feels barren by comparison. The structure of The Sims 4 makes the world feel fragmented. Like I said earlier, you have to sit through a loading screen to go and visit your neighbors, even though the houses are fully loaded and you can see in their house. What is the actual point of that? Why do I need to reload the world if the houses are already loaded? What, to load the Sims? Why would you need to reload the entire world just to load the Sims? Why can't the Sims just live their lives like they do in, I don't know, Sims 3? This fragmentation of the world sucks. Literally every single lot you visit is separated by a loading screen, and for a 4th game in a series, that's fucking inexcusable. And you know what? I know exactly why they did this. I will say, however, that the load times in The Sims 4 are faster than The Sims 3, but that doesn't mean a damn if I'm gonna see those loading screens every time I travel to literally anywhere outside of my lot. They even fucked up the jobs, as now when you travel to your workplace, your Sim will just fade away just outside your house instead of catching a cab or riding with a carpool. That's something that even The Sims 2 on the PlayStation 2 got right, and that came out way before The Sims 3. Okay. So this whole time I've been alluding as to why they made certain decisions with this game, why the base game of The Sims 4 feels so bland and lackluster, why it's missing previously established features, why it's not open world. Well, I'll tell you exactly why. Expansion packs. That's right. This game feels so bare in order to get you to buy expansion packs just so you feel like you didn't waste your money. And you know what? I bought into this. I was so disappointed by the base game that I bought the Get to Work expansion pack just to see if that made my experience any better. And you know what? it barely made a difference. Let me explain. The expansion pack adds 4 new jobs: a doctor, a scientist, a police officer, and a retail shop owner. But these don't act as regular jobs, but instead you actually control your Sims at their workplaces, where you're given a list of tasks to complete, and you can choose how and if you complete them. It's pretty fun for the first 3 jobs that I mentioned until you realize that those are literally just jobs. But the one that caught my eye was the retail shop owner, where you buy a lot in one of the worlds, build your own shop, and sell items. You can sell whatever you want. You could sell chairs, sofas, games consoles, or a plate of food. You do this by talking your customers into buying stupidly expensive stuff, because you get to choose the prices of the items by marking them up. But my big issue here with the retail side is the employees. I swear they are glitched up the arse. Whenever they arrive, they didn't do their assigned tasks at all. Even when I switched out employees, they would sometimes just stand there and not move at all. So fine, the expansion pack does add some game elements. It can add, some hours of fun. But how much is it? £35. Jesus Christ. Just for that extra gameplay, some items, and a new world, you're gonna charge that much? And the new world is tiny. Look at this. The expansion pack is worth £10, and that's at absolute peak, £10. Actually, let's talk about the DLC of this game in general. There are 3 types of DLC. Stuff packs, which give you some items in the game. Game packs, which adds small amounts of new gameplay with some items and sometimes new worlds. And expansion packs, which supposedly contain the most content. It gives you new gameplay, new world, and some items. These packs are definitely not worth the price of admission. You have to be the most desperate Sims fan wanting to get more out of their game to pay this much money. Each expansion pack is £35, each game pack is £18, and each stuff pack is £10. You know what, let's whip out the calculator here. As of February 2021, the total combined price to buy all expansion packs, game packs, and stuff packs from the official Origin store is £692. Really? You can actually buy a brand new PS5 with multiple full-priced games that are of a much higher quality than this. You could build yourself a very decent gaming PC for that price. There's so much you can do with that kind of money. Another big issue I have here is how a number of these packs should have just been part of the base game. One example is the Seasons expansion pack. Why can't it rain or snow in the base game? Why don't we have access to a calendar or the ability to celebrate holidays in the base game? Because it's locked behind a £35 paywall. Oh, you're telling me that there are aliens in the base game, but we have to pay real life money for cats and dogs? Fuck off. There's even a game pack called Dine Out, where you run a restaurant in which you must buy a lot, hire employees, and run the restaurant. Sound familiar? The stuff you do in that pack is so minimal, it really should have been part of the Get to Work expansion pack, but nah, screw that. This is EA, they need money. And from what I've read online, the Dine Out pack is buggy as all hell. For Christ's sake, there's a pack that you can get which adds the ability to do your laundry. You are literally paying real money to do a chore. Oh yeah, and let me go back to that whole issue of the open world. Well, I figured out the reason the world isn't open. It's so that they can sell you the City Living expansion pack, which adds a world to the game called San Myshuno, which is actually open world. Too bad that open world fucking sucks. I can go on all day about how bad the DLC is implemented. It's such a scummy corporate practice to have such a bare game in order to essentially force people to buy expansion packs so that they don't feel like they wasted their money. And I know, all of the previous Sims games had expansion packs, including 3. And there, it's also inexcusable. I didn't like the expansion packs in 3, and 2 for that matter. For 1, it was kind of understandable, but past that point, expansion packs shouldn't have been a thing, or if they were, they should have been a lot cheaper and given you a lot more gameplay options. But here's the difference between The Sims 3 and The Sims 4. The base game of The Sims 3 is fun. I've owned The Sims 3 for a longer time than I have The Sims 4, and I still haven't bought a single expansion pack or stuff pack for The Sims 3 because I've never needed to. But the bigger issue here is that this practice is working people are buying into this, and because of that, EA will continue to do this shit because they're seeing it as a successful practice. It doesn't feel like you're buying optional extra content, it feels like you're buying the rest of the game. It sucks that unlocking the game of The Sims 4 doesn't require skill, it requires your wallet. There's some stuff here that I don't mind being DLC and I think actually works better as DLC. You know, stuff like your extra clothing options and items and all that. But definitely not for these prices. There's so many better games you can get, and for much cheaper prices than just the DLC. Hell, you can get The Last of Us remastered for £10, and that, aside from being the second greatest game ever made, in my opinion, also comes with the DLC. There's so many better indie games you can buy for much cheaper prices. What I'm trying to point at here is that the amount of money that you're spending on this DLC is not worth it, just to add just these little extra things to the game. If EA wanted a bunch of money that badly, then what they could do is release the previous Sims games 1, 2, and 3 in a collection that comes with all the expansion packs and DLC for one price, maybe somewhere in the £30 to £40 range. That would rake in the cash and actually give players their money's worth, not this shit. That was a lot. I think I covered pretty much all the main points I wanted to cover without going into serious detail in order to stop this video from getting ridiculously long, because trust me, there's loads of little nitpicks that I can pull out about this game, but you know, at the end of the day, those are just nitpicks. I wanted to talk about my bigger issues with this game. Overall, The Sims 4, whilst moving in the right direction in some aspects, also fails in others. There's good stuff here. Such good stuff that moving in the right direction. Like I said, the social aspect is so good that when I go back, I sorely miss it. But the problem is, they've taken too many steps back for me to call this a good game or a fun time. I did have fun for the first half an hour or so. Past that, the base game was just so dull and boring to me. There wasn't much for me to get out of it. And to have the fun of the game be locked behind a paywall is just bullshit. I know there are people who think I'm being too hard on a game that they think is, you know, it's alright, it's pretty good. But these are just my honest thoughts. Regardless, I'm done here. I've said what I needed to say. My final rating for this game is a 4 out of 10. I hope you all enjoyed, and until next time.